The president-elect turned to his son-in-law at a gala dinner the night before he was sworn in. If you can't produce peace in the Middle East, Donald Trump told Jared Kushner, nobody can. The notion of Kushner as Middle East peacemaker was greeted with ridicule, but his lack of experience was part of a strategy. The experts had failed.
The entire system of creation of these kinds of plans and concepts, the analysts who went into this, the diplomacy surrounding it, the commentary, all of this was wrong and misguided and needs to be rethought. We're charting a new course. We don't really have a great idea of what that course is. All we know is that it's not that.
Wittingly or unwittingly, the decades-old peace process has failed to achieve anything other than the entrenchment of Israel's illegal occupation. But judging from leaks from the Trump administration, the Palestinians are now seen merely as a blockage on a new course, a course based on Arab-Israeli unity against Iran. The unveiling of what's become known as the deal of the century is reported to be on hold.
The president believes forging a historic peace agreement is possible and believes his son-in-law is especially fit to achieve it.
He is so great. If you can't produce peace in the Middle East, nobody can.
White House advisor Jared Kushner resumed his effort to forge peace in the Middle East. Well, the president's son-in-law met with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem today before heading to Ramallah to sit down with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. Kushner says the White House is very committed to achieving a deal, but the Palestinians have already begun complaining about the lack of progress.
As President Donald Trump prepares for his first major foreign trip next week to the Middle East, his administration is privately turning to a familiar face for help navigating the region. Jared Kushner. Now, the president's son-in-law was a chief Middle East negotiator during the president's first term. And now we're learning that he's informally advising some of the president's top administration officials, people like Steve Witkoff, on help with navigating how to talk to these Arab leaders. Now, one of the key goals for the president next week is to return home with economic agreements from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. But we're also learning that one of the more quiet, private goals that they're plotting behind the scenes is to try and expand on the Abraham Accords. The Abraham Accords was hammered out during the president's first term that essentially normalized diplomatic relationships between Israel and a number of Arab nations. Now, all of this comes as Jared Kushner does not want, we're told, a formal role in the Trump administration. Instead, he prefers to operate more behind the scenes in a quiet role.
This group has the ability to work together to create a historic opportunity for the Palestinian people and the people of this region. Some people have mockingly called this effort the deal of the century, but at its core, it is not just about making a deal. In fact, this effort is better referred to as the opportunity of the century, if leadership has the courage to pursue it. For a moment, imagine a new reality in the Middle East. Imagine a bustling commercial and tourist center in Gaza and the West Bank where international businesses come together and thrive. Imagine the West Bank as a blossoming economy full of entrepreneurs, engineers, scientists, and business leaders. Imagine people and goods flowing quickly and securely throughout the region as economics become more integrated and people become more prosperous. Over the next 2 days, I want us all to keep in mind the following question. Should we find reason to stay with the status quo, a broken system that favors few at the expense of many, or should we push together to find new solutions and fight for a brighter future filled with opportunity and hope? I know which one I want to choose.
All right, so I spent some time as a correspondent in the Middle East several years ago, and I came back and thought, this is an intractable problem. It ain't going to happen in my lifetime. Is there any better prospect now?
No is the short answer. I mean, good luck to the administration. You have to admire their intentions, but ultimately, peace between Israel and the Palestinians has to rest on some foundation in reality, and that doesn't exist now, given a variety of factors: the overall turmoil in the region, the absence of a legitimate Palestinian government or representative can really speak authoritatively for the Palestinian people. It has some veneer of democratic legitimacy. And I think just the impossibility of circumstances to allow Israel to accept on its borders terrorist states, more terrorist states, I should say, with no recourse other than self-defense when they're attacked.
President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, met with leaders in the Middle East today. Kushner hopes his day-long visit will restart long, dormant peace talks between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. This month marks the 50th anniversary of the 1967 Mideast War, when Israel captured the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Gaza Strip.
And I think more fundamentally even than what we've discussed is the two-state solution. This whole concept has failed. The fact is that even if you could draw the boundaries of a Palestinian state, Gaza and some piece of the West Bank, it would not be viable. It would have no chance to have legitimacy from a representative government. One political development in Israel that's not well understood in the United States is that public opinion across the political spectrum, right, left, and center, has moved strongly against the idea of peace with the Palestinians just to say they've made peace. They understand the nature of the terrorist threat, and they're resigned to deal with it as best they can, but it won't be by giving the Palestinians their own state.
All right. Sometimes peace is simply unattainable.
Now, a senior negotiator appointed by Donald Trump is on his way to the Middle East to promote a future peace plan for Israel and Palestine. President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, was expected to accompany Jason Greenblatt on a week-long tour of Gulf states. The U.S. delegation will outline the economic elements of a proposal aimed at ending the decades-old conflict. And critics, Marwan, will say, look, Jared Kushner, he's Trump's son-in-law. He and Trump are extremely close to Israel. People will say, well, hang on, is he an honest broker for this deal?
And obviously there's the common enemy, not common enemy, but you have Iran right now who's been threatening UAE, been threatening Israel, been threatening America, and then funding a lot of the proxies, fighters that are causing instability throughout the region. So security's never been more important, and we're always in discussions with our allies about how we can continue to advance and make progress to make sure that the region can become safer.
The last time we spoke, it was following the announcement of the Middle East peace proposal from this administration, and one of the items outlined in there is the two-state solution. Prime Minister Netanyahu says that he will not have annexation in the Western Bank for the time being. How crucial of a will this deal unravel should Prime Minister Netanyahu ultimately, in the longer term, pursue annexation?
Look, Prime Minister Netanyahu is a visionary leader. He's very tough. He understands what's important to the Israeli people, but most importantly, he understands what's critical to Israel's security and Israel's economy. And so right now, he believes that it's much more important to strengthen the relationship with United Arab Emirates and other regional Arab countries and to figure out how we can create that cross-pollination between the populations. And by doing that, I think that you'll see that'll make Israeli safer. So when he gives his word on something, I take his word.
The other week I was speaking with Jason Greenblatt, a previous administration official here at the White House, and he noted that there had been some optimism, some hope in terms of how Palestinians and the Israelis were working together on COVID-19. Not all the way, but some areas, and especially how the economic situation because of the pandemic and the medical situation in both Israel and Palestine has forced them to relook at things regarding water, cybersecurity, and technology. However, the Palestinians really denounced this deal. At what point do you have to put additional pressure on Palestine in order to get them to broker that Israel-Palestine deal?
Yeah, we don't want to pressure the Palestinian people. And look, I think a lot's changed over 25 years, right? People have seen that a lot of the approaches haven't worked. People want better lives for their children. They want to live in peace. They want security. They want economic opportunity. I think that that's just the natural evolution. People are tired of conflict, tired of war. The Middle East has had problem after problem after problem. President Trump's come in. He's recognized the realities on the ground, and he's tried to sort them out as we go. And so with regards to the Palestinians, what we did is we laid out a good vision for what can happen. We got Israel to agree to a Palestinian state. We got Israel to agree to potential borders through a map that we published. And we have we created a conference in Bahrain where the international community came together and endorsed our plan to provide $50 billion over 10 years to double their GDP, create 1 million new jobs, and help them have a better quality of life. So when you see denouncements and disagreements, I think that the people, the Israeli people and the Palestinian people, are much closer together than perhaps where the Palestinian leadership is. And so the hope is that over time the Palestinian leadership will see that they have so much more to gain for their people and for their legacies by engaging and resolving these long-standing conflicts than by putting out the same tired statements that, quite frankly, haven't brought progress for their people.